Now we're recording. Cool, cool. I'll learn how to edit these things sooner or later. So today we're going to, me and Logan are about to go ride. So I did this thing yesterday. Yeah, I got a new bike. So what I got was a 2021 Co-op from REI. It's their brand. I'm gonna give it a shot. It's supposedly a pretty decent hardtail. I'm not familiar with it at all. I was gonna go full suspension, but I'll discuss that later why I didn't. I'm not gonna pay a lot of money for a full suspension that doesn't seem to be the greatest. So I went with this hardtail. It's an upper end hardtail, mid-grade hardtail. I learned that this is a low end hardtail. The Giant, it's not meant to do what I'm doing with it. So I needed to go and upgrade it some. So I'm gonna do some real quick video on this. So right now I'm gonna do the specs and some of the things on it, then I'm gonna go ride it for about 2.5 hours off-road at Raven Rock, and we're gonna see what it does. But quick difference between what I had on the Giant. Obviously I changed out the grips and pedals, but on the Giant it's a 29-inch tires, got the Maxxis Recons on here. It's a large frame. It's got obviously disc brakes. Calipers are smaller than mine. Or the discs are actually smaller than mine, and mine are Tektro brakes. I don't know a lot about them. So somebody needs to get my dog and get frustrated. Front wheel has got a quick release, but it's still a through axle. This one has the through axle, but it doesn't have the quick disconnect on there to take it off. So I'll have to probably take this all the way off, but I haven't gone that far yet. So again, the disc is actually bigger than this one. I do have these WTB Rangers, but what I like about it is you can see that it's 27.5, they're 27.5 tall. These are 29s, but it's 2.8 wide. So if you look at the difference in the width of that one, these are 2.5. So I'm gonna get a lot more traction on these than I will on the Giant. So we're gonna see about that. Also on the front end, outside of that, I do have air shocks. This has air shocks, but they're a good brand over there. I'm not real sure about these, but what you can see the difference, I have 140 millimeter distance of travel here. These were only 100, and you can see the telltale signs of how high when I'm jumping and stuff I'm using of the forks in the front. So that's the front end, but it's still air. You can still lock it out, add air to it. Same thing here, you can lock them out and add air to it. This is a pretty bike though, the Giant. So that's what we got there. Again, the brakes, these Tektro brakes, I'm not real familiar. I did Google it and they seem to be a pretty decent brake, and I apologize if it's windy, but we do have the SRAMs, SRAM, however they say it, as far as the gears. The only thing I wasn't familiar with was the brakes, but they seem to be good. Didn't like the way it felt on the road yesterday, but I think they're a little bit different. So it's kind of like anti-lock. They don't want to skid. So we'll find out how well they work in about an hour. So that's the front end that we have. Then we're going to move over to the cranks. My crank, that sounded terrible, but that crank is smaller than this one over here on the Giant a little bit. So you can look at the crank set back here. The cassettes are smaller, these are larger, so it'll be interesting to see how this works. You can hear the difference in it. It sounds like a full suspension bike. Then you have your derailleur back here. It's a SRAM derailleur, so that should be fine. It was shifted on the road fine, but we're going to really test it out once we get to the hills. So the last major difference, other than the tires, the brakes, and it's the fact that it's a 27.5-inch tires. I'll be changing grips on this thing, of course, pedals, if I decide to keep it, because I may be taking it back. So one of the coolest things that I've got to show you guys, watch the seat. I have a dropper, so this is a good option to have on a bike. And of course the cables are still through the down tube, and then we got the dropper post, so push that down. So I'm probably going to utilize that very well today and often today. I have to actually learn how to use that thing. I was practicing on the road, but so we got the dropper post with remote. So everybody's probably freaking out about the money I'm spending on bikes and stuff. And yes, this was not a cheap bike. We're gonna make sure it's worth it. You know, like I said, the only concern I have is the Tektro brakes, but they seem to as well. Last comparison, then we got to get in the truck and leave. The shifter for my gears is different. So when you shift down, up, it's both pushing forward. So I don't have to move. I can operate my brakes, 2 fingers, shift in here. That was a plus. I liked that. Sorry, I'm probably not pointing at it. And I'll show you why. So on my Giant, down, up. So you had to pull with this finger. So you had to use that. Everybody can get used to that. I mean, just all about how you ride. And the problem is I've gotten used to this bike. So this one's going to be a big learning experience, just because the forks make the front tire extend out a little bit further. So anyway, we're going to load up right now. We're going to throw a little bit of lube on his crank, his gears here, his cassettes and the derailleur, and then mine's fine. We're going to roll out and go do this. I'll be doing some videos on the trail and talking about this bike, but let's go do a review on this bike. And so we're out. We got to go do this.